Hey guys, thanks again for attending the back pain masterclass. As promised, here are my responses to the questions you had after the session. If you have any more, I'll try and do these a little bit semi-regularly going forwards. If you like it, give it a thumbs up and that will encourage me to keep up these Q&As. But Hamish had a great question. He said, how would you know when to move to the next exercise in the continuum, meaning the spectrum of specificity? Is there a specific endpoint for each exercise, or even if someone didn't have a problem, would you keep these regressions in to reinforce that technique and Mo stability? Really, really good question. And it's very much a piece of string answer in that there is no discrete point when you know you're done with a progression or a regression and you're ready to move on to the next exercise. So it's not as if you do the glute stretch for a while and then you're ready to do a balance, or you're good enough at a balance and you move on to the next side. It's always a qualitative assessment rather than a quantitative assessment. The only one that really matters is, can they do the thing that they want to be able to do? So can they deadlift without back pain? Can they lift a certain weight a certain number of times without back pain? That's the only quantitative assessment that matters for our clients, and it's up to us to select or design assessments that create some nice stepping stones along the way. So I can't give you right or wrong answers because everybody is different. Everyone has slightly different goals and slightly different starting positions. So my advice would be, just keep testing the waters, like make some nice logical small steps to bridge the gap between where they are today and where they want to be. And using the spectrum of specificity, we can break this down by small jumps in mobility, small jumps in stability, small jumps in load. Use that progressive overload model that you use in all the rest of your training. Just apply it to those other movement qualities. And if you can create nice, logical, progressive stepping stones to map them from here to there, then you're going to get some great feedback along the way as to whether you're going too fast or whether you need to dial it back. But always be thinking, am I getting the right training stimulus? Is this teaching them the movement quality that they lack? And if it is, and it looks like they're getting better and their symptoms are improving or not getting worse, then you're probably going in the right direction. Let me know if that makes sense. I'm more than happy to follow up again, Hamish, if you want to discuss that further. Then we have Kevin, again, in terms of the spectrum of specificity. Similar question, like, what are some key points or signs that the movement quality work has been doing its job and they're ready to get back to heavy deadlifting? Similar question, and what we're looking for here are green lights to suggest they're ready to advance to the next level. As I just said, deadlifting heavy is the acid test, but how can we reduce the stress on the body in the same quality as they were lacking upon assessment? So if they were lacking lateral hip stability, can we create a deadlift variation which demands more lateral hip stability, which is less challenging on their back and is less triggering to their back pain? So you might have seen on my Instagram the 3D deadlift matrix, which I commonly prescribe as a warm-up, but it's also an amazing corrective exercise and an assessment exercise. So there is a deadlift variation in there where we reach out to the side as we are hinging, and it forces the hips to go in the other direction. So it has a lot of load on the lateral hip. So that would be an example of a test exercise, which is also a corrective exercise for somebody whose limiter is lateral hip stability. And if we can see progress in that lateral hip stability hinge, we know that their body has improved in that movement quality and will have a much greater chance of expressing that movement quality in the major movement pattern of the heavy deadlift. So again, I'm afraid I can't give you like definite answers, but depending on what that person is lacking, You want to just see some significant improvement in those movements. And the beauty of these movement mechanics exercises is because they're weird and they're targeting such specific movement qualities, people can improve in them quite quickly. My recommendation for the mentees is always to film the assessment at the start. So what's their start point? How can they control lateral hip stability, to take this example, on day one? Once you've given them all their correctives and they've worked on them for a couple of weeks, reassess, and hopefully you should see an improvement in the assessments that they were failing or doing poorly at in the beginning, and you know their body is now moving better than it was, and that should correlate with an improvement in the major movement pattern of the deadlift. Right, then Fritz has a question. Another qualitative question. I can feel my left foot is less stable than my right, though it's a lot more stable than the guys on the video you showed. So how bad is bad enough that it needs addressing? Another very good question. Important to note that the guys I chose in the video were very bad in that they clearly show what red flags to look out for when you're assessing. I didn't want to pick the more subtle ones because obviously they don't pop as much in the presentation. How bad is bad enough that it needs addressing, again, is a bit of a piece of string answer in that there's no definite point at which it's right or wrong. Another phrase I always say to my mentees is, if it's not a problem, it's not a problem. So if you don't have any issues, if you're not experiencing any pain, if your performance hasn't plateaued, then you probably don't need to do anything about it until you've hit some sort of roadblock. And the other side of this equation to balance is that depending on who you're working with, it might be quite a hard business pitch to get somebody to do movement mechanics work if everything's going really smoothly. Some people are open-minded to it and recognize that they're going to be able to make progress for longer, uninterrupted, but other people just want to do the hard training, the classic training that they know and love. So the thought process I would go through here is there currently a problem in your body? And I remember you saying you've got some back pain, so there is. And then, is it the biggest red flag in your assessment? So once you've looked at the whole body and you can get a feel for how well you are expressing the movement qualities required for a deadlift, is the unstable left foot the worst thing that you found, or are there other missing movement qualities elsewhere in the body which we could link to the back pain? So we always need a bit of a hypothesis as to, okay, they're experiencing back pain. I think it's because they are lacking this movement quality, transverse plane foot stability, or lateral hip stability, or posterior hip mobility. Whatever your hypothesis is, are you able to link a poor performance in a test to the symptoms they're experiencing, or the performance plateau that they're experiencing? If it's not a problem, it's not a problem. But if there is a clear correlation between the two, and obviously that problem solving is a big part of the assessment methodology, which is a little bit more in depth. If you have a look through the Facebook group, there's plenty of other things that will give you a feel for how we go about that problem solving process. But I think the takeaway advice for this short form answer is it the worst thing you found in assessment? And if so, improving your stability, full stop, is usually a good thing, especially if there is a big difference between left and right. Then I would always look to address it. The severity for how bad it is and how good the rest of your movement is would dictate how much time and effort I put into addressing that foot instability. But hopefully that answers your questions, guys. If anyone else has any other questions, feel free to drop me a DM or post something in the group here. But hopefully that was helpful. Anything else you need, guys, just drop me a message and I'll get back to you as soon as I get a chance. But have a great day, and I will talk to you soon.